Hey there, Amanda Guarneri here from the Resume RX. I've been a nurse practitioner since 2011, and this is my place to educate you and help you navigate the career professional side of being a nurse practitioner so that you can find and land your dream job that's going to leave you both professionally and personally fulfilled, because I think that's what we all want, and that's what I definitely want for you. Okay, so today I'm going to tackle a little bit of a beast of a topic, and it's negotiating. I get asked about negotiating all the time. It's something that brings up an emotional response in a lot of people, and it's the type of thing where everyone knows that they should be doing it, or you're hearing that you should be negotiating, but you may not actually be learning how to negotiate and what that means and what you can do to advocate for yourself and your worth during this professional transition. So I'm going to cover a few things here today, give you a little bit of a negotiation primer so that when you enter this conversation for the first time, for the next time, you have a little bit more comfort with what you should be paying attention to. Okay, so negotiating can happen in a few different settings. It can happen in person or face-to-face. For example, if you have an interview that goes really well, it's possible you may be offered a job on the spot, though that isn't typical. It is possible, or you may be brought in for a face-to-face meeting to discuss the details of the offer. I have found in my experience, more often than not, the offers come via email a period of time after your interview. So it's possible that the negotiation process will happen via email or via phone. So I'm going to give you some, broad concepts to keep in mind without some hyper-specific scripting so that you can adapt to the situation that you're in personally. So the first thing that I want you to do as you are preparing to negotiate, as you're preparing to welcome a job offer, which is so exciting, I want you to do some research. And I want you to do some specific research about the salary expectations, not only of nurse practitioners, but of new grad nurse practitioners, if that's appropriate to you, within your specialty and within your geographical area. And those things are often overlooked. I've seen chatter in different places that people will say, what's a typical salary for a new grad nurse practitioner? And it's just not a question that can be answered without the specifics of where do you live, what's your specialty, and how much nurse practitioner experience do you have? Okay, so if you're going to do research ahead of time, which I highly recommend, you should make sure that you're looking into those things. The typical salary of someone with your experience in your geographical area with your particular certification and experience. The other thing that I want you to keep in mind before we go into more details, keep in mind that nurse practitioners, for the most part, are revenue generating providers. So that means that our worth, our value to a office or a clinic or a hospital is pretty closely linked to our productivity. And I have some mixed feelings about that. I personally don't think that anyone should ever measure their worth according to their productivity, because I think that's harmful behavior in general. Side note, I could go on and on about that. But keep in mind that in the world of nurse practitioners, that is the reality of how our salaries are structured and based. They're based off of our ability to produce, to see patients, and to make money for a practice or a hospital. This is different than how nursing salaries are figured out, because nurses are not directly revenue generating. So if you approach the process of salary for nurse practitioners as you did to your nursing position, you may not be completely satisfied because it's just a different process and it's a different role. So with that being said, if you are on the newer side of things, if you are about to be new grad, or if you are a new grad nurse practitioner, keep in mind that you will not have the ability to produce to the level of someone with 5, 10, 15 years of experience. Okay, that doesn't mean that you're not going to get there, but just acknowledge the fact that while you have so much potential and so much aptitude as a new nurse practitioner, you are going to face the barrier of the fact that from a revenue standpoint, you will not be able to produce to the level of someone with more experience, which means it gives you a ton of room for growth. So if you kind of flip your mindset and rather than seeing that as a negative, see that as an opportunity to only improve from where you're starting, hopefully that will help you combat any kind of, roadblocks or barriers that you face when negotiating your salary. So once you're given a salary offer and you're preparing to negotiate and you've done your research, like I've said, what I want you to start off with is something that's loosely related to the compliment sandwich, right? So I'm a big fan of the compliment sandwich. If you have some constructive criticism to deliver, it's always nice to start with a compliment, build that person up, deliver your constructive feedback, and compliment them again. That's just how I operate. I find it a very, copacetic way to interact with people. It makes things not adversarial, and that's just a good way to be, because the topic of negotiation, like I said, it brings up emotions. People get defensive, people get adversarial, and that's not what you want to bring up during this process, because keep in mind, you're still a potential employee to whoever you're speaking with. So you want to maintain and preserve that professional relationship and show that you have kind of some business skill and poise when going into this conversation. So if this is a position that you really want and you're really excited about it, I want you to show that excitement. So I want you to outright say, thank you so much for this offer. I am so excited to be a prospective member of your team. Here's the value that I'm going to add. Here's why I love your practice. Whatever it is, what drives your excitement, be honest about it. Let them know that not only are they choosing you, but you want to choose them as an employer, because people like when these types of relationships are mutual. So you're going to give a compliment, you're going to be excited, you're going to say why this is the position that you want and why you're so excited to be an optimal candidate for it. In the next section or in the next sentence, you might reiterate your value. Say, I come from this many years of experience as a nurse, or I completed these rotations in school. Whatever has you standing apart from your competition, reiterate that. Whatever you think your unique value proposition is, you should state that out loud. And like I said, take the emotions out of it. You want to, acknowledge the fact that this is a potential working relationship and this is a business conversation. This does not have to be anything that, brings up emotions or arguments or, you don't want to be defensive. You want to be matter of fact and cordial. So let's say you've been given an offer that's much lower than your research has shown is appropriate or fair market value. You could now go into saying, I've done my research and other nurse practitioners, other new graduate nurse practitioners with the same level of experience or the same certification in this geographical area are getting a salary range of X to X. Okay, I think the range is really important because it shows that you are willing to have a conversation and that you've done your research and that you're not going back and saying, yeah, that's nice, but I was planning on, 120 grand, as opposed to just flat out saying what you want. Make sure you're approaching it conversationally and cordially. So you may have said, based on my research for this role, I'm finding that the fair market value is more of a range of X to X, and I was really aspiring to be closer to X per year, X per hour, whatever you decide that number is that you want to negotiate to, deliver that. And you can then echo, like I said, I'm really hoping that we can come up with an offer that we're both comfortable with, because this is really where I see myself growing professionally for the next phase of my career, or whatever you want to say there. So it's possible and maybe even likely that you'll be faced with a no. Hopefully it opens up a conversation, but maybe they'll say just flat out, no, we can't afford that right now. They could say, you're a new grad, you won't be producing for a while. So you can take two avenues here. You can go back and echo the value that you plan to provide, the fact that you are aware that you have a lot of aptitude for being revenue generating in the near future. Or you also could go down the avenue of discussing the possibility of revisiting your salary after 3 to 6 months once you've had the opportunity to orient and become productive in your role. I also want you to keep in mind that salary is not the only thing to negotiate. Okay? It's not the only thing on the table, and there are potentially a lot of other things that could result in more money in your pocket either now or later. So I don't want you to get totally hung up on the number, the one salary number, because there are just so many other things to consider. The other things to consider usually come in the form of benefits. So other things you could attempt to negotiate besides salary: paid time off / vacation, continuing ed money, continuing ed time, the vesting period in your retirement account, meaning, the period of time before you've earned the employer's contributions. You could try to negotiate the employer's contributions to your account. You could negotiate the level or the price of what they're offering you in terms of health benefits. The point is here, if they're going to give you more money in your retirement fund, if they're going to reduce the cost of your healthcare premiums, if they're going to give you more paid time off or vacation, though that doesn't affect the actual salary number, it results in more money in your pocket either now or later and should be considered a win. Ultimately, if you're able to negotiate that number, certainly you should try for that first, because it could have a more exponential improvement on your salary in the future. If you negotiate your salary up a certain amount and your yearly salary increases are a percentage of your base salary, then it kind of guarantees that your salary will climb a certain percentage each year, as opposed to, just negotiating a benefit improvement. The other opportunity to negotiate in a practice setting that offers productivity pay is to have a discussion around what that productivity pay is, whether it's based on the number of patients that you see, whether it's based on the amount that's collected from patients, or if it's based on the RVUs billed per patient. So whatever that productivity structure is, consider it an opportunity to negotiate, and you may have a little bit more success there, since those types of things are more directly related to your revenue generation when you are in a role that has both a base salary plus productivity pay. So that's it for your negotiation primer for nurse practitioners. Please let me know if you have any questions surrounding this topic. I'd love to talk a little bit more about things that you want to hear. And if you found this video helpful, I would love if you would like the video, subscribe to my channel, and maybe even share it with a nurse practitioner friend, colleague, or classmate, so that we can help this overwhelming transition be a little bit easier for other nurse practitioners. And if you found this helpful, please head to my website, theresumerx.com, grab my free new nurse practitioner guide, which will put you on my email list so that you can be the first to know about a new program that I'm working on that will have a lot more scripts and tutorials and strategies for negotiating when you are in the moment. Until next time, remember that I'm always rooting for you, and I'll see you again here soon.